Alright, hello and welcome to Ethan's Garage. We are back with another Junkyard tour, which is very exciting. This Junkyard is kind of special, at least to me, because for a few years I went without going to a single Junkyard, and this is the first one I ever got back to, like 2 years ago. So it was a very nice change of pace when I got here. But we are in San Diego right now, and let's see what they got here. It's a nice Junkyard. It's not like the fanciest one ever, but the good thing is because SoCal, nothing has rust. So let's see what we can find. Alright, let's start off with this. This here's a Corolla Coupe from '89, it says. Gotta love those old school Toyota interiors. Pre-airbag. I also feel like this is a very nice era for Mercedes. This is an 06 E320. And something about just the way they did the interiors in these are very like grand and proper. You know, this was definitely a Mercedes. Like, look at the pockets and everything. Of course, ashtray, actually. I also thought this here was a very interesting naming structure for cars and really all kinds of products. The something something by the main company. Kind of an interesting approach to branding. Also, these old Buicks are great. Actually, all these old cars are great for having the column shift. I truly miss those. I think column shift's the best. A WRX right here. I think this is the one that came just after the Bug Eye. That's a fun find. Nice and boxy, mid-engined. What a great car. And pop-ups even too. This here is the Lexus ES300, which I've always really admired these cars, because to me, I mean, they're so closely related to the Camry of the same era. I mean, almost identical, honestly. But on the inside, everything is just nicer. And you can get these really cheap, so you can get like a nicest, fanciest Camry ever that goes forever for no money. Such a deal. One of my buddies actually has this exact car. I think this is like an 03 maybe, but his has 320,000 miles if I remember correctly, which is honestly pretty impressive. His is a manual too, which might help that a little bit. This is another fun one here, the Chrysler LeBaron. I actually thought this was the TC by Maserati at first. Definitely seen better days, of course, but kind of cool to see it here nonetheless. The hood ornament's pretty impressive too. I think it's still plastic. Actually, maybe it is glass. And the LS400. This might be the second gen, which looks almost, yeah, second gen. They look almost identical to the early ones, but they're just subtly different in a bunch of small ways. Bulletproof cars. Matt Farah famously has the million-mile one of these, which I don't know if he actually still has. Man, it's weird to finally be in an era where we have Nissan Leafs at junkyards. Honestly, it makes sense. These things have depreciated so hard. You can pick these up basically for free. They sure were innovative when they came out. Definitely a very distinct design. I always remember being kind of interesting because they were one of the earlier cars to have LEDs in the taillights. Although Cadillac actually was one of the very, very early adopters. Would have been very interesting too if they had done a gas version and an EV version, because honestly this platform would have easily been a gas-capable platform. I kind of miss the era of Ford when they all had this kind of circular Ford grille. That was a nice time. They made some good stuff then. I've always liked the Audis of this era. Something about the way they designed it is just very, very clean. This body line's fantastic. Not the most grand or impressive car, but just a solid design. This here's a late 2000s Ford Focus, which I always thought was kind of interesting because this is a complete diversion from the European version for some reason. I never understood quite why they did that. Like, I don't know if it has like anything in common at all, but a funny design feature I also thought was unique was the brake light stood up versus out, which is interesting. It's become kind of standard with most crossovers and stuff these days, but I remember this was kind of interesting when it came out because the people at Chrysler managed to register this as a light truck, which got them around all sorts of like eco and crash test standards or something. And also interesting PT Cruiser thing is I don't know if this one has it with it right now, but there's a tray you could put here or here to basically make this a 2-level trunk. I always thought these things had like okay fuel economy. Nope. Atrocious for a hatchback. 24 I think is the highway mileage, which is as bad as like a Toyota Sienna, which is double the size. That's how you know it's a truly American car. Mercedes 300D. This is the W123 generation. Genuinely one of my favorite cars of all time. The 5-cylinder diesel is, you know, one of those engines that goes forever and ever. And I've always just loved everything about it. The design, the body lines, the comfort. They're pretty nice inside. I almost walked by this. This PT Cruiser has flames in the side. You know, I really do love with California junkyards, you just get so many very old cars that'd be remarkable to see anywhere else, but are kind of normal here. And you get that everywhere here. I mean, every side street has an old car that's super rare. And this is a perfect example of it. If I read it correctly in the back, this is a Cortina. I'm guessing Ford Cortina. Can't even remember the last time I saw one of these at all. Yeah, 67 Ford Cortina. How wild is that? Love the interior. Wow. What a cool finding. And a wagon nonetheless. I'm pretty sure this has been a Mercedes feature for a while, but they love with Mercedes doing these like 90-degree opening hoods, which is what really great feature. Although it's a good feature, people do kind of make fun of it for what that might mean of like lots of maintenance that you need to have that. Pretty sure this Beetle has every color to ever exist on it. I see yellow, blue, green, purple, I think. It's unique. Very on brand for a Beetle though. Although this PT Cruiser is completely crushed. This is the tray I was talking about earlier. This might actually be the first time I've seen a Chevy Volt at a junkyard. Kind of like the Nissan Leaf, it's weird that we're at an era where they're here already. Well, I guess it could be pretty much the year they're created too, but still. Weird to see EVs and stuff like that at junkyards. I feel like I'm used to seeing like Dodge Magnums and super American cars or something at junkyards, but now there's the Chevy Volt. I remember this junkyard kind of stood out to me too because of the landscape here. Like you're right up against these beautiful wilderness hills here in northern San Diego County. Nice view. This here looks to be a 90s S-Class. We got the Del Sol right here with the back propped open by the Prius cargo cover. Interestingly, we actually have another Nissan Leaf here. It's becoming a trend. And right here we have a car I've always kind of hated, but at the same time found oddly interesting. It's really just, I don't know, strange car. It's the Volkswagen, what is it, EOS? The basically Jetta or Golf, I actually don't know which one it is, maybe Jetta. Convertible, but hardtop convertible. One of these cars that just doesn't super make sense. Just odd. This here's the Mini Cooper Countryman. One of my friends actually has one just like this. And interesting thing, US vehicle code requires brake lights and turn signals, all that stuff to be on non-moving parts of the body. So that like if you open the door, you don't just like lose the brake lights or hazards. So what they did here for these barn doors is they put the lights here, so when the door opened, it stayed in place. Very clever and also just cool look. I love barn doors too, they're just the best. Another sad Benz. This is, I think, a W123 as well. A 240D. Poor thing. Like we have yet another one. Similar color too. This is a 300D from 1981. Now this is a proper find. BMW 6 Series from 83. You know it's cool when the hood opens that way. Damn, that's awesome. Check out the gyrocopter. That's a rare sighting. It's a little ultralight. A nice midpoint between a plane and a helicopter. And I suppose now would be a good time to remind you guys, if you guys like this kind of stuff, make sure to check out my video out of San Marino. I went to the 5th smallest country in the world and did a junkyard tour there, which I'm still just over the moon excited about. But I'll link that down below. I have a bunch of other junkyard reviews, or tours, or whatever you want to call them. So make sure to check that stuff out. And if you guys actually like this kind of content, or even if you don't, do make sure to subscribe. All us small YouTubers like myself, we don't get paid ever unless we have 1,000 subscribers. So YouTube's been doing this thing recently where they like to blow up these videos that are 10 years old. Person has 300 subscribers, but there's some kind of like viral video. So they make that go to 15 million views, get tons of ad revenue, and don't pay the person at all. So make sure to subscribe to all the small creators you see out there. Makes a huge difference. But anyways, let's keep looking. Look at this beast. Oh, 20 miles long. Oh, also Ford Thunderbird. Man, I always forget how many versions of the Thunderbird there was. It had like, I don't know, 8 generations. Don't quote me on that, but it had a ton. I've seen these multiple times where I'm like, that's also Thunderbird? Just like this. Didn't know that was going to be a Thunderbird. I've always adored these 90s old body style Ford dualies, especially with the crew cab. Just what a beast of a machine. Horrible gas mileage, of course, but who even cares? Just too cool. Got some nice smaller pickup trucks here. The old, I think 80s or 90s Chevy S10, and an old Toyota pickup, which I think is actually correct. Before they actually named it the Tacoma, they just called it the pickup. These old Chevy vans, actually all the old American vans, are just a very charismatic design, especially with the two-tone with the stripe. So cool. And speaking of old vans, we got this beauty. I believe this is an old Toyota van, which should be mid-engined, like an early Previa, or I forget, there's a car before the Previa too. This reminds me a lot of the early like Renault Espace vans. Kind of guessing this one was in a rollover, because otherwise how would there be smushing of the pillars on both sides? That looks rough. Interesting, 1983 Mazda. So this is basically a Ford Ranger. This one has Toyota wheels in it, which is kind of cool. Huh, definitely not something you see every day. Check out this insane thing in the parking lot. A probably like 65 V8 Mustang owned by an absolute hoarder, and you can see the suspension wants to be dead. Wow, that's unique. Alrighty, well that wraps up the video. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been super fun. I'll definitely be coming back to this one, and if you guys like videos like this, stay tuned, make sure to subscribe, and give me any recommendations for other junkyards you want me to check out. I'll definitely go into more of them. There's tons of them here in SoCal, so I'll see you in the next one.